Welcome, everybody. I'll say it a few times. We are super excited to have this webinar. We've got a lot of marketing brain power here, and I'm going to give it a couple seconds and sort of stretch out my intro till we fill the room up. We had a lot of excitement the last 24, 48 hours for this. I think it's a great panel, and I can't wait to introduce you. But I'll start with myself, and I'm going to let the other guys introduce themselves, all right? Because nobody can introduce their own expertness better than themselves. So I'm Brad Kugler. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Direct Mail 2.0. We are a marketing automation platform that services the direct mail industry. Basically, we have a suite of digital technologies that lifts the effectiveness of direct mail, usually by about 50% or more. We've been doing this for about 7 years. And one of the things we love to do is kind of keep ourselves on the cutting edge of any marketing tech. It doesn't have to be digital tech, but if somebody's got something that works or they've found successful, I want to bring it to not just our customers, our prospects, but I like to learn, and I hope you guys do too. So without further ado, I first want to thank our four panelists here, and I'm going to let them each introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Joanne, who some of you probably know. Joanne, give us your 30 seconds.
Thank you, Brad. I will take that to heart. Glad to see everybody here. Thank you for inviting me. I am Joanne Gore. I'm the president of Joanne Gore Communications. We are a full-service B2B virtual agency. I like to say we feed the entire food chain of the print industry, from the manufacturers all the way down to the print service providers. We'll help you stretch your marketing dollars, pinpoint your quickest time to money, attract a new generation of business, and go from cold calling to warm conversations. And at the end of the day, I am a B2B marketer who's passionate about print, and I love sharing the power to anybody who will listen.
And
How's
Joanne,
that?
coming to us from Canada, right?
Yes, I am just north of the city of Toronto, where it is a beautifully gray, hazy, rainy, typical April day.
And you speak pretty fluent French from what I recall, don't you?
Well, unless you're French and can recognize it's not quite as fluent, but I can understand French. Yes, I'm technically fluent, but it's gotten a little rusty over the years.
All right. Well, hopefully we won't have the need to speak any French here because I speak nothing. All right.
Oh, well, then I can wow your socks off.
All right, Alyssa, tell us about who you are and what you do.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. I'm excited that for everyone that's on the call. Alyssa Summers, I'm the CEO of Pryntbase, which is a digital marketing platform made specifically for the print industry. So really the ultimate goal is to help printers get leads and sales. There's a platform with a ton of assets and courses teaching you how to market yourself online, give you the tools to do it. In addition to that, we also have a service where we can help you do it without you having to lift a finger. So kind of the best of both worlds. We've kind of paired do it yourself with doing it for you. And so we're just really hoping to help printers market themselves more and more every day. And I've been in the space for over 8 years in the industry, and I love it. I'm just really excited to be here with all of you to talk more about marketing.
Thank you, Alyssa. And where did you say you're hailing from right now?
I'm in Iowa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. I'm in Florida in case I didn't mention it. Next up, Hans, who I've actually known for, gosh, I'm going to say almost 40 years. He is a well-established technocrat and is one of the more brilliant guys that I've come across, and just is one of these guys that just gets into something and just figures it out. And I think he has an amazing story here, and I wanted him to share what he has learned over the years. Hans, take it away.
Yeah, Brad, thanks for having me here. And yes, you just made me feel a little bit older, but I'm just going to let that go. I'm a marketing consultant. I have a very specific problem I solve, which is that most business owners struggle to communicate clearly about what they do. I'm a certified story brand guide to solve that problem, which means that I take the seven elements of every engaging story, whether it's a movie or a book, and I work them into your business message so that all of the noise gets stripped away and what's left is just signal. It's just exactly, who you are, who you serve, the problem that you solve for that customer, and how you do that. And it's just a very clear methodology for really writing words that help your business grow. That's kind of the bottom line. So we've known about this for thousands of years. You know, this is how we've told stories forever. And for some reason, when it comes to business, we all just forget about it and we start getting real clever and using like whiz bang words and acronyms and stuff like that. So my purpose is just to make any marketing message crystal clear. Hopefully I made my marketing message crystal clear just there, but we'll have a chance to talk some more in a little bit. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Hans. And last but not least, we have Alyssa, or I'm sorry, Jules, I'm sorry. We already did Alyssa. Where are you located first? And then tell us your marketing story.
You bet. So Jules VanSant, I hail from the Great Pacific Northwest in Portland, Oregon. I am the inspirational officer and partner in Bubble and Hatch. We're a communications firm that help your message pop and deliver. My business partner, Jill, and I have been in the paper, print, packaging, and association industries for many years. And we are here to help print service providers and all of the ancillary companies around paper, OEMs, nonprofits, to be able to tell their story and to also remind them that their story matters and that they need to listen and curate and then deliver. Also use the technologies they have. Oftentimes, again, diving way into digital because that's where everyone is, but we forget, especially a lot of the people on this call today who are Mail 2.0 users, use that technology to tell your own story. What a great case study. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to inspire. We're here to bring our experience and get people to listen and think a little differently.
Thank you very much, Jules. So again, thank you to the panel. A couple housekeeping notes. We are recording the session, so it will be available. I know we get a lot of requests in the chat, so we can reduce some of that traffic. I'm producing myself today, so I will manage the chat. I will interject your questions as we go through the questions that I have already prepared for this team. And I just want to say one of the benefits of having a diverse group of experts here is that you get multiple viewpoints, and you know, something may resonate with somebody but not somebody else. And I guarantee you with this group here, you're going to find something you can take away. At least that's my hope here, is something here will help you improve what you're doing in your business to market it better and hopefully grow. So that being said, to kick off our conversation, what I wanted to do was open it with a couple of bullet points to kind of stimulate the conversation here. So hopefully you can see the slide. These are things I picked up actually this morning from Google Gemini. I'm a big believer. I love these AI tools. I think it's definitely the next generation of search. But here's the general consensus of these stats, and I won't necessarily read each one of them to you, but the point is, in marketing anything, there are a lot of messages out there, all right? Every single person in the United States is getting between 4,000 and 10,000 marketing messages a day, all right? So I don't know about you, but I get way more than the 121 emails there. My count goes about 350. Honestly, of which maybe 10 to 15% that I actually have to take some action on. The rest are basically marketing messages, you know? So I'm getting 8 to 10,000 ads. I'm getting 200 to 300 marketing messages online. You know, I'm bombarded just like the rest of you. How does one cut through that? All right. And I'm not here to preach direct mail, as I believe in it, mainly because you go to that mailbox of yours and there's about 3 pieces per day for most people in there. All right. You're not getting 100 emails or 100 pieces of mail in your mailbox. You have 3. So look at the competition for the eyeballs or the attention. That mailbox is almost like an undiscovered bastion of marketing that people don't rely on or they don't even think about. Now, we've all heard the objections. It's not cheap, it's expensive, but it delivers. So most of the people on here have something to do with print, so they're already believers in this, but it's important that we disseminate that outside of this group so that others know that as well. So getting back to the omni-channel or all the different marketing things you can do, You have to do something to rise above the noise. So I'm hoping with this esteemed group here that over the next 40 minutes or so, they're going to come up with some ideas, some clarity, some action items that you can do to rise above that noise. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pose this first question to the entire group, and I'll give each one of them, a minute, hopefully, or less to sort of respond to this. So everybody sort of feels that print is a legacy business or print is dead. It's old school. Everything is digital, trees and environment. It's all bad. Why or how would somebody who's in the print business or doing some kind of ink on paper advertising, what can they do to rise above this and convince people that they should be doing this despite the current wave of technology saying it's not the thing to do? All right. And since Jules spoke last, I'll let her speak first to this point.
Awesome. Hey, thanks. So I heard a couple things out of that question. First of all, I think it's really important to utilize, as I said before, the technology you have. You're trying to promote and sell your capabilities, your services, your technology. Use it. Use it in your marketing. Make sure that you are telling your story in multiple places. As we talk about omni-channel, you need to get it out there. You need to disseminate that information. And one of the ways you can do that, again, in telling a sustainability story, if that's a pushback, I happen to also be the executive director of Two Sides North America, which advocates for paper, print, paper-based packaging, and mail. And use the stats. Tell the story about print and paper, and use some of the research that we have and parlay that into what you're doing in your own location to exemplify the environmental benefit. There's a lot of bad press that's not, it's not research backed. A lot of the digital technology, which we all have and we all love and we're not going to get rid of, is not great for the environment. So elevate your own story and make sure you're telling it everywhere on your website, in your social media, and in that direct mail piece. If that's what your clients are looking for, then tell them that.
Very good. Thank you. Joanne, how do people get their print business on the crest of the marketing wave? I like that. That sounded good, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It did. So I'm going to sort of piggyback onto a bit of what Jules said. And really for us, what we like to help our clients and the people that I speak to really understand who are you going after first and foremost? Do you know what the DNA is of an ideal lead? Because otherwise, I've said it once, I'll say it a million times. If you don't know who you help, if you don't know how you help, and if you don't know why it matters, then you're wasting your marketing dollars, you're wasting your resources, you're wasting your time, because you're never going to know what's right and what's wrong. So first and foremost, you need to be able to answer those questions. Then from there, I agree, you need to sort of eat your own pudding. You need to use direct mail. You need to have an open house. You can do lunch and learns. You can create content that helps your buyer make print buying decisions. The bottom line is, in order to sell more print, in my opinion, you actually have to stop selling print and you actually have to start selling and sharing the experiences that happen when you use print. And to Hans's point, we're not selling anymore. We're telling stories. That's what people will remember long after that sales pitch is gone. And the only way to differentiate yourself. I'm also a firm believer in social media and the power of LinkedIn especially if you are a B2B business, if you're in software, or if you're trying to go after some of those larger enterprise accounts, and really amping up your own personal profile, being seen as the subject matter expert for whatever it is your business, whatever problem you're solving. Because again, as we all know, it's hard enough to scroll through the digital noise. Add to that the fact that nobody really wants to talk to a salesperson until they have to talk to a salesperson. If they can do it themselves and get all the way from beginning to end, they will. So in order to be able to insert yourself into the conversation, you need to be where they are. And whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, it doesn't matter. It all comes back to knowing who do you help, how do you help, and why does it matter?
Thank you. I've always been a believer in, start listening and stop selling sometimes. All right.
Yes.
It's key. And because your message sort of is complementary to, I know what Hans is going to say. I'll let him go next. Hans, you want to take it from there on that?
Yeah, I've just
Yeah.
passed you the baton.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll try and catch it while I'm running. Well, yeah, just to play off a little bit on what both Jules and Joanne said, I mean, knowing, and forgive me in advance if I cross who said what in which case, but from my point of view, the number one thing that I see small, medium-sized business owners kind of skip over is the definition of their customer, right? So most marketers have heard these terms like avatar and ideal customer profile and so forth, but what is that really? It's really a definition. It's a box you're putting around characteristics, right? And they're usually demographic, like gender and location and stuff like that. But there also should be psychographic, right? Which really means what influences them, what do they like to talk about, what do they do with their free time, whatever you can possibly learn by usually just aiming at most of you probably already have customers, right? So you go back through and just voraciously try and put a box around these people and then see who are in common boxes, if that makes sense. And that is such an important thing to do, but it's a lot of work. It's rolling up sleeves and really getting into the mud. And, that's why I think a lot of business owners kind of skip it, because it is hard, but it pays off in spades. And it's a little bit like that old, finding a needle in a haystack. Well, you'll never find the needle if you don't know what a needle looks like. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about like, who exactly are you going after, to the degree that you can figure that out. And sometimes you just have to kind of like, at first and guess, but you have to continuously improve on that profile. And you should literally have a piece of paper on the wall that has everything you've learned about your ideal customer. Give him or her a name, find a picture, that represents more or less, as close as you can, and then just put it front and center and keep updating that. And I think that the reason, it might seem like I went a little bit off on a tangent, but the reason that this is important to this question is because when you speak to that profile, you invite that profile in, and that's how you stand out. Nothing is less or more mundane or less unique and less the opposite of noisy, right? Than not knowing who you're speaking to, because you just won't be calling that person out. As soon as you speak the way they like to be spoken to, they will appear to you, right? It's pretty magical. So that's one way to just really stick out, is to speak to your people the way they want to be spoken to. And to do that, you have to really get this profile going and dial it in. So.
Awesome. All right. So Alyssa, you get to wrap it up and put a bow on it, and we'll move on.
Oh, I love that. I'm so honored. I think this is kind of a perfect wrap up, because we're talking about all the digital channels and all the noise that's out there. And since we work a lot in the digital marketing side of things, I think the best way to do it is to join it in a way. So you take everything that everyone was talking about here on messaging and getting to know your customer, and you're visible online. You're posting yourself to social. Joanne was talking about LinkedIn and using that as a personal profile, using your personal profile to do that, but you have to market your business as well. And so we've seen over the years, a lot of companies aren't even active on social. And even if it's just as simple as a post a week that's talking about the process, the printing process, or talking about behind the scenes, the fun company work, the case studies, success stories, that kind of thing, just being visible is going to help you sell print. So if you can't beat them, join them is kind of how I'm going to tie this section up.
Good, good. Well, then we're going to start with you on the next question here.
Ooh.
And I want to kind of limit this to one specific thing. If you guys, maybe you'll come up with the same thing, it's okay, but we'll let Alyssa start. What's the number one mistake print companies, or actually it doesn't matter, any company makes when they start marketing? What do you think is the number one thing that puts them on the road to either a failure or a lack of results?
I will first answer that with a throwaway answer, which is not actually starting. I was speaking to that with social, but a more specific mistake or common issue that we see is a lot of companies trying to overcomplicate maybe the messaging. A lot of our focus when we work with companies and the content that we're putting out is focused on problem solution. So kind of like Hans was talking about, understanding how to communicate with them. You know the issues that they're facing, and you are the solution to that. So how do you do it? You start and you speak to exactly what they're experiencing and how you solve that, and they're going to come talking to you.
I think that's great. It's great. Jules, you want to be next up on that same question? What is the number one mistake you see companies make when they start to market? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute. There we go.
There I am. Yes, that they're not consistent. Again, to Alyssa's point, that they kind of fits and starts. The worst thing is we all research when we go to buy, right? So we're intrigued with something, we go to research, we go on your social, and you haven't been there for 9 months. That tells me that maybe you're not engaged, you're not using technology at the level that it should be used. And I'm going to question whether or not you're going to be able to be a good partner for me as a buyer. And so definitely that consistency, and that consistency of a message across board, not having that on your website, not having that on your mail, not having that on your social. That's the biggest mistake.
Agree 100%. Joanne, what have you got on that point? And don't forget you're muted too. What are the number one mistakes you see guys make when they start to market?
I at the end of the day, it's all going to come back to the DNA of a lead. You need to know, who are you targeting, what message resonates with them, and how are you going to get them to where you want them to go next. So it really is, how do you want them to behave? How do you want them to feel when they encounter your brand, when they encounter your message? Is it the same across every platform? And again, I'm probably going to sound like a broken record by the end of this, but you truly, truly need to be able to answer those questions. Who do you help? How do you help? Why does it matter? And you can find that out easily by going through your CRM, by understanding where you're making the most amount of money in the least amount of time from the most amount of people. And then figure out, how did we do that? Can we replicate it? To me, that's the first step towards positive marketing. Look at what worked, try and replicate it. If you can, keep replicating it. If you can't, figure out what's wrong, tweak it, and then go try again. Marketing is all about trial and error. And honestly, as a marketer, and most people shudder at the thought, but failing is probably the best thing that can happen, because that's when we really refine and tweak and get better. If we're constantly hitting home runs, at some point we're going to burn out. So you always need to be challenged.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. Hans, you got something to say here too?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. So first of all, totally agree with what Alyssa was saying. The problem in any story, the hook is the problem, right? But whose problem? A lot of times as business owners, we get kind of caught up in our own problems, and because we're living a story too, right? But the number one thing you can forget is that the hero of the story that you're involved in is the customer, right? Like if it's Star Wars, it's Luke Skywalker, right? And Luke Skywalker has a problem. It's Darth Vader, because Darth Vader's killing everybody. Well, and so the hero needs a little help though. So the hero of that story, we'll just stick with Luke for a second, and I'll bring it back. He's weak. If you remember the beginning of Star Wars, and I apologize if you're one of the 3 people on earth who haven't seen that story, but and there are some people out there, by the way, it's funny, but anyway, he's weak. Luke is actually weak in the beginning of the story. And the reason you watch that whole story is because you get to see him transform into super, badass Jedi, right? So, and the reason he can transform is because he has a guide. He has Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? That helps him go from weak to strong. Well, I got to tell you this. When I tell people this, I talk to a lot of business owners and I ask them, I go to full stop and I say, who's the hero of your business story? What do you think 80% of those people say? They go, I think I am, And why? Because they do heroic things for their customer. You don't always pat them on the back for that. That's awesome, right? But the truth is, they have to shift. They aren't the hero. The customer is always the hero because the customer is always the one with the problem, right? They're the one with the Darth Vader. And what are they asking? They're asking, are you the guide I'm looking for? Are you the person who's going to help me transform into a badass in whatever that context is, right? So all that to say that the number one mistake I see business owners make 80% of the time is they think they're the hero. And how does that show up? They say things like, we're amazing. We just won an award. We're so great. We're the best. We're top, blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares, right? The customer doesn't really care. The customer has a Darth Vader on his neck. And he's like, how do I get this thing off? It's sucking my will to live, right? So and your job. The good news is, dear printer and every business out there, is you get to be Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? You get to be the guide that they're looking for. And how do you do that? I'll just wrap it up with these 2 points by showing empathy and authority. Those are the 2 things that make a guide positioned as a guide. When Obi-Wan showed up, you saw the authority. He was just like cool as a cucumber, like Darth Vader, please, So, and then you put your arm around that customer hero with the problem and you say, brother or sister, I've got your back. We're going to solve this together. I know how to do this. I've done it before. So that's really just remember, customer is the hero. Customer is the hero. Talk to them like that, empathy and authority, and you'll be golden.
Brilliant. Such great advice. And you guys did such a good job. I feel like I want to comment on this question myself, if you don't mind. So, I've been doing this kind of stuff for a few years now, and I've noticed something repeatedly in dealing in the marketing world is everyone has had failures on marketing. Everybody has wasted money thinking that they're going to hit it out of the park and it falls flat on their face. It's happened to me more times than I care to admit. The biggest thing that you have to do is persist. All right. You have to test different things. That means fail fast and fail often, which is what Joanne said. You can't sit there and I'm afraid to spend this money because I might lose it. Well, guess what? You probably will, but you know what? Make some more and try something else. Especially when it comes to print marketing, you've got to keep trying. So for everyone out there that has had 1, 2, 20, 100 losses in marketing efforts and lost tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, keep going. All right. And I'm not trying to do this to suck money out of you. I don't care where you spend it. Just keep marketing. All right. That's my 2 cents. So we'll move on from that to the next question here. What objections are heard most often when you implore companies to market themselves, and how do you overcome that? So I know everybody's going to say money, 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 money. We all know that that's an objection. It's very expensive. You can comment on that if you like, but I'm gonna go with Jules on this. What objections have you heard to marketing, and how do you get your clients or customers to overcome them?
So to market effectively, as we've talked about buyer personas and being able to tell your story, not having data is a big deal. And it's like, well, we don't have a good CRM. Our database is the accounting staff. That's who we email with. The salespeople own all the other data. So that's a huge one. It's like, we'd like to create a funnel for you. We'd like to go out and create social communities on your platforms, but we need to know who your companies are, who the individuals are that you're working with, so we can start engagement. And a lot of companies are like, how do I get going on that? But they're very much selling personalized direct mail and other marketing materials that are data driven. right? And so that is one of the biggest things. It's like that's an overwhelming task for them. That is not in their comfort zone to create CRMs, to start looking at tagging some of their clients by industry, by geography. To your point, again, trying to identify who those are, step and repeat and build on that. Data is really queen, I'm going to say, instead of king. And that seems to be a real, it's hard to get started. So, and we try to step in and support that and build those for those clients if we can. But again, they have to be able to pull that data. So.
Perfect. Thank you, Jules. Alyssa, what objections have you heard to getting your clients to market, and how have you overcome them?
The biggest one we hear is where to start, especially some of the smaller companies that don't have the big marketing budgets, or maybe don't even have like a designated marketing team or person in house. So they have no idea where to start. And a lot of it can be overwhelming, especially if you get too heavy into a lot of the technical marketing elements like SEO and that type of thing. So how we overcome it is simply say start somewhere, and usually that is social. I know I already talked about social, or email marketing. You had started the presentation off by saying how many emails you get, but that's a really easy budget friendly place to start, is just by marketing yourself to your existing customers, trying to maybe sell them on a new product you have or a new service you're offering. And you could be doing the same thing on social, but almost 95% of the time we get the question is, I have no idea where to start. So we say start somewhere, and a really easy place is social media.
Thank you. I actually want to take one step deeper. You're obviously, well, everybody's a big proponent of social. Let me quantify or qualify a deeper look at that question of social. Most everybody that's on here is a B2B marketer. Print companies are marketing to other companies. If it's a pure B2B, business to business play, that's a different animal on social. How does one do that effectively? And I'll let you answer that, Alyssa, since you've been carrying the flag for social. How do you differentiate B2B social versus B2C social?
I think a lot of it is kind of what we were speaking to earlier, is the content and the messaging you're putting out, which is problem solution, because consumers have a problem, they have a need, they have a want, they have a desire, but it usually isn't as deeply rooted like another business, a business owner may have. So you really have to speak to that problem solution. So I think the first part is messaging, and the second part is how you're utilizing social. Joanne was talking about LinkedIn. There's LinkedIn ads is a really, really, really powerful place to be. And I know that kind of goes against the money aspect of this, because it's ad dollars, but you can get really, really specific in who you're getting in front of. If you're running LinkedIn ads, you can target industries and job titles and that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to geek out on the digital ad side of things here. I'll save everyone of that. But that is really, really powerful. LinkedIn ads is really powerful for B2B. So specifically the print industry, because you can get in front of those exact people.
Fair enough. Joanne, are you wanting to comment on this thing about overcoming marketing objections? I see you chomping at the bit.
How could you tell? So I agree. Yes, cost is always going to be a factor. I try not to even use the word cost. I use the word investment, because it is an investment in the success of your company. Time is a big one. Especially, we work with a lot of companies that either have no marketing department, or maybe it's one person wearing 27 hats. And I've sat in that chair and been that one person. So I can relate really well and very quickly understand, okay, here's what you're struggling with. Let's take it off your plate. Let's help you. But at the end of the day, I think the crux of it truly is fear. And for a lot of printers specifically, they just don't understand marketing today. They understand print advertising, they understand picking up the phone, they understand, cold calling and sort of the sales aspect of it. But when it comes to the marketing, they don't know. And Alyssa, you said they don't know where to start. They don't know what they don't know. And fear is what's holding them back. And because it's fear, they don't want to admit it. So they'll come up with every argument that they can throw into the mix. But let's face it, if they're going to invest 6 figures into a press, then they should be able to invest 4 figures into marketing. So that's just sort of the ground level. But again, Alyssa, you said it, Hans, you said it, I think Jules, you said it, all starts with messaging. And what we really try and do is say, okay, how can we help you be efficient and effective? Start with that playbook. What are the problems and solutions? Who are your ideal audiences? What are the messages? When you have that messaging playbook, then every single person in the company can use it the way they need to. If you're onboarding new staff, if you're hiring new salespeople, if you're creating presentations, if you're replying to RFPs, you don't have people running around saying, oh, I need to say it in 100 words, or, oh no, I need it in 25 words. Like, just stop. Like, too many people are wasting valuable time. And invest in a solid messaging playbook or a brand playbook or whatever you need to get running quickly, and then learn how to use it. Learn how to create evergreen content for social media. Learn how to take that playbook and turn it into blogs or ebooks or downloadable content. Learn how to repurpose what you have so you're not reinventing the wheel all the time. Then that fear starts to go away. And you said it exactly, Hans. We're here to help you. We're here to show you how to do it. We can do it for you, or we can do it with you. But the goal is to just, not to quote Nike, just do it.
Just do it.
And Alyssa.
Hans, I'll give you the last word on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to add to what the ladies just covered, because they're all hitting the nail right on the head. But so I think I'm going to go back to something you said, Brad, because I have some really strong thoughts about this, which is the number one objection I run into, probably aside from cost, is failure, or like you're the fourth marketing person, blah blah blah, right? Implying that this probably won't work too, or whatever. I can't quite get into their head on it, but something you said, I think, is, I have a little acronym for it, which is HTR. It's hypothesize, test, repeat, right? And it's just something I tell myself, which is like, what do you think is going to work? That's the hypothesis thing, right? Like, which might actually be 5 different images for the same ad in LinkedIn, let's say, right? Same words, different images, or sometimes it's the same image, different words, right? And you're just spending $5 a day, just going to see what do they click on, because there's no accounting for human, stuff, right? Like we all make weird choices. So you just throw it out there. And I'm going to tell you a funny story about this in a second, and then you just, try it out, and you get clicks, great. Double down on the one that got the most clicks. Keep going until it peters out. A lot of times these things just kind of like peter out, and where you're all like, dang it, we almost made money, So you just got to kind of hypothesize, test, repeat, and you just do it over and over. Now, I'm going to tell you, I have to leave out a name, but there's a super, super, super well-known marketer. You'll probably figure it out if I tell you a couple things, but basically you see this guy everywhere on LinkedIn. He's got a whole team. He's massive. He's got a marketing media empire. The guy is just like, he's really easy on the ears, fun to listen to and everything. Okay. Now his number one guy who got him so famous on the interwebs and everything was in a mastermind with a friend of mine, 8 people in the room, phones and bags. Nobody's allowed to say anything. Okay. I mean, on electronics or record anything. And these guys, you would think they've got their stuff together. Like they probably know everything about everything, is how it seems, because this dude is everywhere, right? Anyway, the funny part was his media guy leans in and says, yeah, we don't know what we're doing, right? And everybody's like, what? And then he elaborates and says, this is what we do. We throw stuff against the wall in a lot of different places. Like they might post the same message on 60 different channels, right? In slightly different ways and stuff like that. And he goes, every day at 4 o'clock, we look at the stats. and we see what happened.
Mhm.
And that's it. That's their whole business model, right? So do with it as you will. Not everybody can, take the time to post in 65 different channels. I'm lucky if I post in 2. In fact, while Joanne was talking, I was thinking I should probably go post something on Instagram real quick, right? But the point is, like, do what you can. Definitely start, and then watch the stats, and then just please don't quit. Just stick with it and keep trying stuff, and it'll work out. Do more of that.
I love it. I love it. So at this point, we're going to take a little digestif, a little limoncello. So we're going to jump to the other side of things because we've all heard of the things you mentioned. You throw something at the wall and see what sticks. And I'm going to start and kick this off with my own non-conventional marketing story. And then I'm sure you guys all have one of these. And I add them here because they're fun and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. So a few weeks ago or a few months ago, I got a FedEx or a envelope, a little package. I open it up and it has a little game in it where you roll a ball around and through a maze. And on the other side, there's this $50 bill, United States, real currency. And if you roll the ball and figure out the puzzle, it unlocks the currency and out comes a $50 bill. I was like, it was not easy. Okay. I messed with this thing for 20 minutes and I was ready to take a hammer to it at some point. But I was just amazed that some guy found me, put a $50 bill in there, knowing I was going to get this $50 bill, whether I got the puzzle or not. I'm $50 richer for this. But, being the inquisitive marketing and business guy I am, I called him up and I said, listen, I got to hand it to you. You sent me a $50 bill. You had no idea if anything was going to happen. I will give you 15, 20 minutes of my time so you can explain where this idea came from and pitch me your product. All right, whatever. It caught my attention. So everybody's probably had an experience like that you go, wow, what a bright idea. How fun would that be? So I'd love to hear if you guys have had an interaction or a story like that worked out and share it with the rest of us. All right. Jules, you want to kick this one off?
Well, I was thinking about a gift box, an influencer type box that came a few years ago from a printing company, and it had a little pouch of tequila, and it had a little shot glass, and it had some really clever messaging with a recipe and a little mixer. And as a buyer, that was one of those things that showed me multiple different aspects of what they can do, and very memorable. Great tequila. And and it made me want to talk to them and say, hey, how'd you make this? How did you do this? And I feel pretty special that I got one of these. I mean, it's not something that you're going to see every day. So maybe it was the tequila speaking, but that's okay too. But that to me was thinking outside the box. I hate that term, but it's kind of what it is. But also showing off what your capabilities are. So to me, that was pretty fun.
Great. All right. Alyssa, you got one of those too?
Yeah, first thing that comes to mind, it's not necessarily like a tangible thing. You guys both have really cool examples. No tequila came to my door, but I was thinking more about messaging just to kind of, I guess, tie it all together, not to be a total nerd here, but I feel like I've been seeing more and more companies having these like crazy guarantees where it's like guarantee you'll 5x your sales or else we'll pay to send your whole family to Bali for 2 weeks or something crazy like that, which sounds so outrageous. But when I see it, if it's a product or company that have some sort of interest in, I'm like, there's no way. And it makes me want to like test out the theory to see if it would work, And I mean, as a business owner, I'm like, well, shoot, you got to have a lot of confidence that your product is going to give them that result or else you wouldn't offer it. So, but as a consumer, it's really enticing for my end. So again, not a tangible thing, but messaging, it could be really valuable to really any company.
Perfect. And again, the reason we're talking about these is we talked about in the beginning, rising above the noise level of those 10,000 messages a day. These are some ideas that, again, I'm not saying it's scalable or repeatable, but they do tend to work, at least on a smaller scale of when they're done. So Joanne, I'm sure you've got one of these too.
Yeah, so mine's a little different as well. I also didn't get any tequila. I'm sorry to say. I guess I don't know.
What a bummer.
Maybe because I'm Canadian, who knows? But what I've been noticing recently is the shift away from sort of gated content, but really sort of the free, not free. And I was looking, there was a post in my feed this morning that I was just reading about it, and I tried to find it and I can't. But one example is, people sign up for webinars all the time, but they don't attend. In fact, I don't know about you, but I'm notorious for I'll sign up for a webinar just because I know I'm going to be able to watch the replay whenever I can.
Yep.
What I saw recently was, yep, same thing, sign up for the webinar, freebie, blah, blah. But if you want access to the replay, then you have to pay $27 or whatever it was. And it was a full summit. It was like an 8-hour, it wasn't just a 1-hour thing, but it's an interesting way from like a virtual conference perspective, or if you're doing, some sort of event online and you want to get the repeat people back, right? The people that watch the recordings. I saw that and I was like, oh my God, that's genius. How did I never think of the fact that we know people's behavior? So let's monetize that. I mean, let's be real. That's what we're trying to do here. I think that anybody who's doing webinars, that you're going to start to see more of that, or free content, but if you want access to whatever, you have to pay more. So it's not about being gated anymore. It's about that added value of what you will get if you provide my name, your name, and get on what we ultimately know will be the marketing list.
Fabulous. Yeah. I think that that's a valuable message too. It's not always the gift in the mail or something. There's other things that you can do to get attention. Hans, tell us your non-conventional marketing story.
Well, speaking of gifts in the mail, though, Kelsey Davis posted in the chat that I thought was just awesome. They sent remote control helicopters to viable leads, but without the remote. I think that's amazing, because then you want that remote, man. I want to fly this helicopter. Anyway, I think that's really cool. Mine is one time I received a letter, and it literally looked like a handwritten letter, but upon closer inspection, I could see that it was actually was handwritten, but then mass produced. But so let me describe it. It was like on the legal yellow pad, and it I don't remember what that opening was. I don't think it had my name, so minus 2 points there. But basically, it was written, and not even an attempt to be like, it looked like the first draft. It had scratches out, and and it was a sales letter. It was definitely like to get me to go in and buy a suit at a place, and so it was directed to me as someone who might want to buy suits. And it was written like, hey, I'm on the plane. I was writing you this note, and then and it's all like messy as heck, but you could read it. And I thought, that's pretty crafty, because it looked pretty close to like a friend wrote me a note and didn't have time to clean it up, right? And I just think, okay, what are you trying to do with the stuff? You're trying to get attention, so it got my attention because it looked like a personal letter, so I opened it. And then you're trying to keep my attention, and it did that, because I was like, well, this is pretty novel. Now I have to read it. So I think that's really the story with all of these, right? It's this sort of, how do you get attention and how do you hook it, usually with some kind of problem thing or whatever. And then how do you keep them, you only get like 5 seconds over and over and over, right? Like they're not going to go like, oh, well, you won my first 5 seconds. Now I'm going to give you 5 minutes. No, it's like, it's just a repeat of like, well, here's another 5 seconds, and you better just keep them going, So I think as long as it does that, you probably, have a chance,
Yeah, I mean, it's true. You got about 2 seconds to get somebody's attention, and then maybe you get another few seconds, but that's it. We got about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So, all right, excellent. So now I'm going to take it to a question that I am pretty sure that we're not all going to agree on here. It's been asked many times, and I've seen the answers go in one of 2 ways. There's only 2 answers to this, and I'm hoping that you stay with one of these 2. And I'm going to ask you, with regards to marketing today, what is more important, the quality of the message or the quantity of the people you're getting it in front of? If you had to go for a wide, it could be targeted audience, but a bigger audience or a higher quality message, whether it's creative or whatever, what is more important, quality or quantity? And let's start with Joanne. What do you think? I know
I
somebody's
think
gonna
it's
say it depends on what you're
do I get
marketing
to
or,
choose? I think as long as you're consistent, y- I mean, quality is always going to be more important than quantity, because if you have the wrong message going out, it doesn't matter how many people you're sending it to. You're either going to be sending the wrong message to the right people
let's say the
or the
message.
right message to the wrong people.
Yeah.
So you have to get the message right, and then you can start small, do a test, and then grow bigger and bigger and bigger. With each success, you can open up the gates a little bit more and see how much can you push this before you reach that point of diminishing returns, and then you go after the next one. So yeah, if I had to choose, I'd say quality over quantity.
Fair enough. Alyssa, what do you like, quality or quantity?
I mean, I feel like I'm gonna, and I don't know if this is a surprise after talking for the last 50 minutes. I think I'm gonna go quantity. I think I mean, if no one wants to make a decision, but I'm just gonna leave it at quantity. Just getting in front of that is just repeat awareness, recall, recognition.
Good, fair enough. Hans, where do you fall in this scale?
I think since most companies, at least the smaller folks, if you will, don't often know the quality of their customer, enough qualities about their customer, I'm going to go with Alyssa and say quantity. Like I say, just, get out the freaking spam gun and start firing until you get people sort of like, yeah, that's me. You know what I mean? And then you can kind of retool and refine and get a little bit more selective and stuff like that. But in the end, you want that quality, right? Because then you can
Sure.
just really dial things in.
Okay.
But yeah, just get out there, and it also comes back to like, just start, just do it, get off your couch, go do it,
Right,
talk.
Jules, where do you fall? You can either make it a tie or really put it
What to
in.
do, what to do. I pulled this quote that said the biggest communication problem is we do not listen to understand, we listen to reply. And that was Stephen Covey. And I think getting back to that, see what sticks, keep on trying. As much as we do both for our clients, I would probably go quality and then keep tweaking. I would use the analytics, keep testing, and grow that as you start to understand what resonates. But that we need to listen, we need to be solving this problem instead of just looking for a reaction. We need to be more thoughtful. So quality helps us be more thoughtful in our messaging and get better response, I think. So
Then I will wear the job of tiebreaker.
Ooh.
I will wear the hat of tiebreaker, and I'm going to go with quantity. I'm going to say that you can afford more mistakes in messaging if you reach more people. And again, there's a lot of qualifiers to what type of quality and what type of quantity, but I would lean towards the quantity side of the scale. So quantity wins today, not always, but today it wins. So good job for quantity people. All right, we'll move on to the next one, which sort of segues into this. So in a marketing strategy, when do you advise a pivot, or when do you advise to stay the course? And we're gonna have to keep this quick because I think we do have a question or two. Where do you pivot, and when do you say, hey, let's push this message or this method or this channel a little longer? And you know what? Let's start with Hans on that one. He hasn't gone first for a while.
I don't think I've gone first yet, quite frankly. Okay, so I guess I'm going to take the safe road here, which is that one pivot that should always be made is away from cleverness and towards clarity. I see way too many people trying to be clever with their words, and you end up sacrificing clarity almost every time. I'll give you an example. Might be hard to describe in words, but I saw this header on a website one time, and it said something like, "Come on in, we're awesome," right? Big word, awesome. Like, okay, that's clever and all, nice colors, but like, what does it mean? Like, are you my people? Are you my guide? I don't know. So anytime you can kind of remove words and just blurt it out. You remember how we used to have generic beer cans and it literally just said beer in black letters, right? Like I would almost have you pivot towards that, then come up with the ultimate logo, and we're special because we're that
Less is
IPA,
more.
nobody else. Yeah, just less is more. And with that, I will end.
Good. All right, Joanne, tell me about your advice on when to pivot or stay the course.
So there's an expression, everybody's heard variations on it, but my favorite version of it is, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. If you're not happy with the results you're getting, whether it's not enough leads or too many leads of the wrong quality, whatever it is, if the results are not matching your initial goal KPIs, change something. One thing. Just change one thing and see if that makes a difference. It's like when you have a baby and you're introducing solids, you do one at a time because you want to make sure that you don't have an allergic reaction. It's the exact same thing with your marketing. If you try too many things at once, you won't know what worked and what didn't. You've got to be very intentional with what you're doing. And again, if it's working, keep doing it until it's not anymore. And you might hit that wall, and that doesn't mean you no longer go after that market. It means, okay, here's the threshold. Now, what's the threshold for the next one and the next one? But honestly, if you're looking at it and you're not happy with the results, if there's something inside you saying, I don't know, it's not working anymore, it's not working the way it was, then change it.
Yes, I agree. Something called marketing fatigue. Something may have been working amazingly for months, years, even decades, and all of a sudden it's not pulling like it used to. You have saturated the audience. They're tired of the message. People are fickle. There is a such thing as marketing fatigue. So I agree with that. So, all right, Alyssa, you tell us, Mark, when to pivot and when to stay the course.
I think it depends on what your goals are. In the digital sense, is it to be generating more leads, or is it just overall visibility awareness? Because those are two different KPIs that you could be looking at. So if you're not getting leads, pivot. Maybe it's the message, maybe it's all the other things we've talked about it, but you might be getting a ton of visibility, and maybe your goals could change throughout your marketing strategy as well. The goal may be leads, and you might not be seeing those, but you're getting a ton of traffic to your site. You're getting a lot of phone calls that you didn't expect, or you're getting a lot of referrals. So I think it really just depends on your goals, on when you need to just keep on keeping on, or if it's time to try something different.
Perfect. All right, Jules, you've got to have a comment on when to pivot.
Sure. So I think, we're talking to an audience that invests a lot in capital equipment, and they stay the course. They learn how to continuously improve their process on a regular basis so that they make more money, so they're more efficient, they reach, they can put more throughput through the company, increase their profits. So apply that same thing to your marketing. You really have to continue and not stop. You don't turn that machine off because I'm just not happy with, how efficient it's working. You work on it. And so you work on your marketing. And if it's not getting you those KPIs, and that's something a lot of people don't create in this space, are what those measurements are, to be able to come back and go, yes, we reached it. No, we didn't. And and in my experience, it's also getting that feedback from the client. If we don't have a direct line to the CRM and all the information, it's very hard for us to justify that it's working because we don't have purview and we're not getting that feedback. So I think making sure that's in place so that then you can intelligently pivot, as opposed to putting the brakes on it and just say it's not working. You wouldn't do that with your equipment and your staff internally. Don't do it with your marketing.
Makes 100% sense. Thank you for that. I want to get to one question, but I've put up slides for each of you so that if our audience would like to contact you guys, reach out here more. I want them to be able to get your contact information. But I will read a question from Kurt here, and then we'll take the last minute to see if we can give him a satisfactory answer. He says, one of the weakest links in marketing is getting the sales team and infrastructure to leverage these valuable efforts and air cover. How do you recommend to require sales reps to leverage and share these efforts to clients and prospects? How do you hold these reps accountable? Well, as a longtime manager, I'll answer first is there's really only two ways. You either rule by decree and you force it down their throats, which I don't know that that works these days. And nobody likes to be just rammed ideology of marketing or anything down their throat. Or you can get them to understand why this is beneficial and how you completely believe in these actions. And if they did them, they would see success too. That's my 2 cents. I'm open to any of the audience here, and then we'll be respectful of the rest of the audience's time. I'm sorry, my panelists. Do you have an answer for Kurt that may help him? Speak out.
Again, I think that you have to have leadership that is excited about it. I think if you can get your sales reps to be part of that process, give input in the development of that marketing plan, you have a lot better chance of them being engaged. And then also, make those deliverables realistic. Some people don't like to be on social. Don't expect them to share social, but they may be able to follow up on direct mail. Give them KPIs that are reasonable and effective to follow up on, and then celebrate those. Just move the needle slowly. You can't force them.
Thank you, Jules. I will call it a day at this point. I will encourage anybody in the audience that would like to hear more from these esteemed panelists to please contact them. There's a wealth of knowledge there. I want to thank you guys myself, and I've really enjoyed it. I think that was a very insightful commentary. And thank you very much for everyone who attended here, and we'll do it again.